Chapter 1 Brilliant Beginning. The world Katherine Johnson grew up in did not always honor women who excelled in math, especially African American women. When Katherine was young, women were expected to be homemakers, teachers, or nurses. African Americans faced discrimination in all areas of life, but Katherine was born with a natural gift for numbers. Using her talent for math, she excelled in school, and she broke barriers in a career that put her to work as a brilliant mathematician, doing mathematical calculations that will later be done by computers. Girl with a gift. Katherine was born in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. In 1918, her mother had been a teacher, and her father was a farmer and a custodian. He had not gone to school beyond the 6th grade, but he had a knack for working with numbers. When he cut lumber, he could calculate the number of boards he could get from a tree just by looking at it. He could also solve math problems that Katherine's teachers could not figure out. Katherine seemed to have inherited that natural ability. As a child, she was always counting. She counted her steps when she walked to church. She counted plates and silverware when she washed dishes after meals. When her older siblings Horace, Margaret, and Charles started school, Katherine was left behind. But not for long. She was allowed into summer school early because she could already read at a young age. At the age of 5, she was put in 2nd grade. This put her ahead of one older brother in school, and she breezed through the next few years of elementary school. Circle of support. By the age of 10, Katherine was ready for high school. Her town did not have a high school she could attend, but her father believed all of his kids should have an education. He made sure Katherine and her siblings went to high school in another town. The school was on the campus of West Virginia State College and Institute, West Virginia. So Katherine and her siblings lived in Institute with their mother during the school year, while their father stayed at home and worked. In high school, Katherine began getting even more attention for being an outstanding student. One of her favorite classes was geometry. Her teacher, Angie Turner King, acted as a mentor to Katherine and encouraged her to succeed. Katherine's school's principal, Sherman H. Gus, was another mentor. He took the time to teach Katherine about the constellations. She began to develop an interest in astronomy. Still, Katherine did not imagine she would grow up to become an astronomer or a mathematician. She thought she would probably become a math teacher. TED Talk. Math. It's just there. It has always been a part of whatever I was doing. You're either right or you're wrong. That I like about it. Katherine Johnson. Chapter 2 Star Student. At only 14, Katherine graduated from high school. Then she attended West Virginia State College. In college, Katherine struggled to choose a major or a main area of study. She loved math, but she loved French too. Her mentors continued encouraging her to focus on math. One tough female math professor practically ordered Katherine to take her class. Another math professor, James Carmichael Evans, told her he respected her interest in French, but he too insisted that she stick with math studies. Katherine knew he was right, but she figured out a way to keep up with French as well. She decided to major in both math and French. Katherine also impressed a somewhat famous math professor at her college. W. W. Schifflin Clater was the 3rd African American in the United States to earn a Ph.D. in math. He encouraged Katherine to work toward becoming a research mathematician after graduation. In that career, she would use math to solve real-world problems. Inquisitive mind. Katherine was thrilled by the idea. Claytor made sure she studied the coursework that would prepare her to meet her new goal. He even created college courses with her in mind. In his course about the geometry of space, she was his only student. In other classes, Katherine tried to help her fellow students. She could tell when her classmates did not understand the lesson. She would ask Claytor questions until he wondered why his star student didn't understand. She finally had to explain the purpose of her questions to him. Asking questions was a learning strategy Katherine would continue to use throughout her career. In 1937, at the age of 18, Katherine graduated from summa cum laude. She had 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, one in French and other in math, but she did not become a research mathematician immediately. Instead, she followed a more traditional path for a woman of her time. She took teaching jobs and got married. She and her husband, James Goebel, had 3 children together. Johnson also began graduate studies in math and physics at West Virginia University. Chapter 3 Life-Changing Chance. Johnson was still working as a teacher when she went to a family party in the early 1950s. A relative there told her the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, was hiring mathematicians. The agency began hiring more women in 1941, when it lost many male workers to World War II in 1939, 1945, and in 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed an order to prevent discrimination in the workplace, and NACA began hiring more African American women. NACA was working on research and creating new technology for flight, and they needed African American women to work as human computers, or people who completed calculations that would later be done by computers. For its male engineers, Johnson thought this seemed like an amazing opportunity. She applied immediately, but she was too late. The agency had already filled the positions. She had to wait another year to apply again. This time, she was successful. She gave up teaching to join NACA in 1953. Human computers. At NACA, Johnson used a mechanical calculator and a slide rule to solve problems in check calculations. For the engineers, a mechanical calculator was a large machine used for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. A slide rule was marked with numbers. A center strip slid to show answers to math problems. Johnson was not always treated fairly in her new position. Women doing her job were not considered professional. Instead, their position was called sub-professional. As an African American, she also had to work in a segregated environment. White women and African Americans did the same job, but the African American workers were in a separate building. They had their own bathroom and ate lunch at a table set aside for them. A cardboard sign declared the table was for colored computers. A group of human computers eats lunch together in 1950. A woman works at NACA as a human computer. She has a large calculating machine on her desk. Still, Johnson had a chance to use her math skills at NACA. Her husband died in 1956, and with a family to support it, it helped that she was earning more money than she had as a teacher. Best of all, she was on a path toward even more opportunity. NACA technicians prepare equipment in a wind tunnel used to test aircraft on the ground. Continuing to question, Johnson was not a show-off, but since numbers came naturally to her, she did her job extremely well, and she didn't hide her intelligence. For her, that meant asking questions of the engineers who needed her calculations. She asked them about the problems she was working on. She didn't just want to calculate, she wanted to know more about what the engineers were trying to do. She also asked them why women never attended the engineers' meetings. She asked them if there was a law against it. As it turned out, there wasn't. TED Talk. The women did what they were told to do. They didn't ask questions or take the test any further. I asked questions. I wanted to know why. They got used to me asking questions and being the only women there. Katherine Johnson. So that's the end of the 3 chapters of this book. It's about Katherine Johnson, who is a genius. So she excelled in math, and at her time she was born, there was discrimination. So she was not treated fairly in her job. Also, Catherine excelled at math in school. At the age of 5, she was put to summer school because she could already read. And she attended high school when she was 10. So that was very kind of genius, kind of amazing, right? And she excelled at math. But in university, Catherine struggled to choose a major or an area to focus on. So she loved French and she loved math as well. So she decided to choose math and French. So after that, she graduated from West Virginia College. So she had 2 bachelor, which is math and French, which is math and French. So that's she. After that, she went to a family party and she heard that the advisory committee aeronautic was hiring African American women because it lost many male workers when World War II happened. After World War II. So Johnson immediately applied for the job. So she worked as a human computer at NASA. So Johnson was not treated fairly in her new job. So African American and white women did the same job, but they worked in different buildings. She was segregated in a different building. So after that, she also uses her old school strategy. It's asking questions. So she asked a lot of questions about why women don't attend the engineers meetings and why. So people there began to like her and they began to respect her. She also asked them why women never attended the engineers meeting. She asked them if there was a law against it. As it turned out, there wasn't. So, since numbers came naturally to her, she did her job extremely and she didn't hide her intelligence. So, that's all of it for today's book video. I'll hope to see you in another video to discover more about Katherine Johnson, a mathematician who works at NASA. Bye for now. Bye-bye.